Classic Business with Michael Avery, sponsored by Alex Forbes, for insight, advice, and impact.
At the AI Government Summit back in the beginning of April, the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies launched South Africa's Artificial Intelligence Planning Discussion document with the purpose of this initiating discussion between the public and private sectors to facilitate AI growth and innovation, and along with that, the development of a national AI policy that will set out the government's position on the adoption of AI in South Africa and government-led AI initiatives and some of the proposed regulatory frameworks and principles. So it's critically important and a positive initial step, I guess, but a lot of what I've read so far is quite critical of what we've seen in the discussion document, largely because it does seem to be quite vague. To talk about this, I'm joined now by Johan Steyn, a human-centered AI advocate, as regular listeners of this show will know, and thought leader. He's the founder of AIforbusiness.net. Johan, welcome. A positive first step, at least. What's the gist of the document?
Yeah, Michael, thank you. Yes, again, let me commend government and the various parties involved. It is a good first step. It's a bit late, but at least it's happening. So let's contribute and work together. Look, it's setting out government's view on how to roll out a fourth industrial revolution or an artificial intelligence strategy for the country. Now, remember, in October 2020, we already had the result or the report on the Presidential Commission on the 4IR.
Yes.
So 3 years later, we have a draft national AI plan proposed or published October of last year. So exactly 3 years later. In this massively, rapidly, call it post-chat GPT world, I don't know if we can wait 3 years, but at least it's a start. I've got some concerns. I think I've been so negative about and critical about government in this aspect, but I want to say at least it's a start. There are a lot of things missing, and I think we need a lot more from other entities in our country now, in our government and our private sector involved to make this work.
And, you mentioned the need for speed here. I was having a conversation with Dr. Chris Nevert, who's the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for the First Rand Group the other day. And he said even internally in his team, even the youngsters who are coming into his team don't have the requisite current training to sufficiently use things like the new large language models that are coming out. They understand them, obviously, so everyone has got to go on a rapid upskilling here. So we need to move with speed. When it comes to the details of the discussion document, as I said, it's been criticized for being quite vague and quite repetitive. Can you just elaborate on what specific areas need immediate clarification to make this more actionable and less of a kind of broad brushstroke outline?
Yeah. My view, look, I was at the launch, the National AI Government Summit on the 5th of April that you alluded to, where the Minister of Communications and Digital Technology spoke. He spoke brilliantly. So it was a positive event. It seems to me like quite an academic document and an academic initiative at the moment. And of course we need the academics. We need those smart people. Has any of them ever actually implemented this technology, worked with it? And that's why practitioners and others need to be involved, and there were some of them, but not enough. So it seems like it's a bit of I did my homework at 11 o'clock last night, so my teacher won't give me trouble tomorrow morning kind of a document. It's still something, but it's not nothing. But my question is, if it's taken us 3 years to get here, in 3 years from now, the average South African struggling, perhaps in a rural area or elsewhere, with education, employment, etc., what impact will it have? And, you just mentioned large language models. It's estimated that in the next 3 years, these models will be 1,000 times more powerful than they are now. We are already behind. It's a good start, but I think that need for urgency, that need for a diverse community of input, not just technologists, legal people, HR people, organizational design people, sociologists, ethicists. That's my biggest concern at the moment, and that's what I'm not getting out of the document. Quite academic, it's a good start. We are the ethicists, the philosophers, the technologists. Hopefully, and there's already a AI readiness index that we've seen regarding where we rank. We've also, luckily, there is a development of a national AI intelligence strategy working group that I'm involved with. These are all good things. All I'm just saying, Michael, hopefully in 3 years, you and I will not have this exact same conversation, and not much has happened.
Yeah, and it's not like we've got nothing to look at as global best practice. We've got the European Union's AI Act, and they've been quite quick in developing legislation around this, which does get ahead of some of the concerns around concentration. We saw how quickly a company like OpenAI pivoted from non-profit to for-profit, and the ethical concerns and considerations that raises. We've got our own issues when it comes to a lack of a natural language in the vernacular, in the corpus of our languages that we've discussed in the past, Johan, that needs to be supported. And I know Mr. Maravati at UP is doing a great job in doing it, but we need more of that in order to make this technology appropriate for the local context. If you were to look through it, what can we take forward from this document as industry, as a private sector and academia, to work with government to say, right, these are the areas now that we absolutely have to focus on?
The first thing is that we as Africans and as South Africans need to take control and ownership of our technological future. I think we've already somewhat outsourced it to call it the global north, and definitely to the Chinese. You've just spoken about the vernacular, 3,000 dialects and languages in this continent that's not being largely accommodated by large language models, natural language processing models, etc. How do we entice young Africans? Currently, about 3% of people entering the domain of data science in our continent, only 3% are females, young females, because it's about the narrative that we're giving them. Is AI a white man's world? Is it a European world? Is it a man's world? So I think there's a lot we can do from a local community, local government, national policy point of view. But let's make sure that our future, that is highly reliant on this technology, is in our hands, developed by our people, for our people, not outsourced to other nations who are, to a large extent, already almost, nationalizing or just getting a foothold into our continent and our country. The document is a good start. Hopefully they'll move with speed. Hopefully it's not an academic document that will result in a number of fantastic white papers. Unless it impacts that little kid running barefoot in the streets of Soweto in the next 3 or 4 years, I really don't know what we are doing. It's like armchair philosophy.
Yeah.
We have to really, really put speed into it and work together. And we have, Michael, the other thing that really gets to me is we've got some massive societal problems that something like artificial intelligence won't fix. Our schooling system, our levels of poverty, our levels of employment. Now, these things all go together. But hungry children don't learn, even if we introduce robotics and AI and coding into our schools. So we have But the point is, you and I as citizens with our limited influence, we all as fathers and mothers and community members have to work together. It cannot just be academics, and it cannot just be AI people to make this thing work.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying there. It has to be as inclusive as possible, but we definitely need the AI experts. And I do worry that the industry is still quite fragmented. There is the AI Expert Advisory Council, there are various others. Who is speaking with the industry voice here in this space, approaching government, being the lobbyist, being, ensuring that, to your point, we make this practicable, implementable, and contextually relevant for a society that has much deeper structural and fundamental issues with regards to our education system?
Sadly, Michael, I'm not personally aware of that voice or that organization. I think, remember, that a lot of it's driven by commerce and by numbers. We've got the likes of AWS and Microsoft and Google, and they're all doing great things when it comes to offering free education, free courses, and the like. But they're driven by the numbers. And our economy is actually so small given their global footprint. We're not even a blip on the radar for them. So, I think if we think of the likes of Yuval Noah Harari, you and I have spoken about his books before, Nick Bostrom and others, we need ethicists and philosophers to drive this conversation alongside the practitioners and the academics. This is not an AI or a technology conversation at the core. It is the future of humanity and the future of our children. But I don't see anyone that is rising up to do it. There might be people, whether they get the voice or the opportunity or being listened to by government and others, is the question. And we should encourage those people, whoever they are, to let that voice reach the levels where the right people need to hear it over and over again until the message lands.
Yeah, that is the bottom line. Johan Steyn, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for adding your voice into the public square, very importantly. And I agree with you. I mean, if you look at it, it's almost like a wish list. It's repetitive. A lot of it is really not sufficiently advanced or specific or practical in really clarifying where we're going here. It's largely styled as just a list of options. So hopefully, I think optimistically, let's try frame it that way. It, as a discussion document, does signal that policy and legislative developments are now, after 3 years, finally waking up again, Rip Van Winkle-like, and let's hope we see some swift action. But it will probably have to wait till after the election in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks for yours.
Classic Business with Michael Avery, sponsored by Alex Forbes, for insight, advice, and impact.